not a town.
There's a reason I don't come to Charlotte once I have to. And I left all in time. Well, I'm not late technically, but.
Morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good
Megan.
morning. Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
Good. How are you? I tried to catch you yesterday. I'm like, where is she?
Oh, I got in super late from Florida the night before. So I stayed for like 2 hours and I was like, I'm gonna go
I
die.
was wondering about that. Like, you're posting all this stuff in Florida. I'm like,
That was in
where
real
is-
time.
Where is she?
Real time.
I'm like, where did
That
she
was
go?
that was in real time. Yeah.
I'm like,
oh,
I feel like a social outcast over here.
no, scoot over.
yeah, come on
Scoot
down.
over.
Join the
Let's get it.
club.
There are too many chairs in here.
I'm
I'll put them
actually
at the table.
oddly awake.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it may not shock you. I'm not a morning person.
I'm floored.
Like, that's why we ghost hunt at night. It's not because we're more active. It's just because that's when I'm awake. But I woke up at like 6:45, which I have a hard time being up by 10 o'clock when I have to be at work. And like I purposely work for a company that's stationed in Central Time so that I have an extra hour.
Ghost.
And then today I was just like I don't even have my cats here to wake me up. Because normally at about 8 o'clock every morning they just come up onto our bed and they'll be like, meow,
Wake up.
meow. I'm like, all right. I'll stumble into the kitchen, pour them some food, and then just like collapse back in bed.
That's how it is at my parents' house. My parents live in Rockville, so I live in Savannah. But I live here. It just kind of recognized, like, I started getting into like this stuff, I want to say like 2 weeks ago because I had surgery and I just had a lot of free time, so I started watching a lot of paranormal movies. You know, might as well go to this.
Might as well.
It's the last minute, like I decided yesterday.
Oh wow, that is last minute.
That's very last minute.
Spontaneous.
What other panels are you planning on going to today?
Like literally all the paranormal ones.
So you're just gonna stay in this room?
Right, yeah.
That's pretty much where we live.
I
So we'll
mean,
bring her food.
I'm not gonna lie.
Do they DoorDash you this weekend?
Considering
They do actually.
This is a nice air-conditioned room, and where my booth is, apparently is not. I might spend a lot more time in this room today too. But then I have to make sure my team's selling stuff. So, fine line between like, don't die of heat, make money. I don't know.
That's why you get someone to stand there for free.
Well, I've got 2 team members here. Between the 2 of them, they should be good.
Yeah,
Should.
the parking lot's a cactus, so. There's gonna be.
That's good. I know I've made more money already today than I did yesterday. Which
Oh, good.
Thanks. I'm like,
Good.
let's put
I
some
know you
shading.
mentioned
Like
that
a,
yesterday, so I was
tattoo
a little worried
artist.
about it, but.
Or rather, get away from me.
it was a little slower than I expected yesterday, but it makes sense because everyone's going to be here for today. Yeah, because
Give it another couple of minutes.
yeah.
People were drifting in from the outside.
Do we need to like try and busk and get people in?
Because we haven't exactly named to choose from at the moment.
Uh,
I was really surprised how dead it was upstairs. I didn't even offer people.
Considering how many cars in the parking lot, you can.
I think people just partied too hard last night.
it's possible.
That's why I left when I did, because I knew I was gonna need sleep.
If I'm not mistaken, I think last year they had like full party for or something.
They do this year too.
They do this year too.
Yeah.
It's like the 300th floor or something.
That's weird to learn that If
Like-
That's what happens when you're over 40.
it was really tempting, but I'm like, I have to sleep.
Yeah, I moderated the panel that ended at 11:30 last night, which, by the way, is I'm moderating the one that ends at 11:30 tonight too. But as soon as that panel was done, like, I was like, all right, guys, y'all have a good time. I went straight up, passed out. No drinking, no partying, just let me go to bed.
I like party hard the first night, and then the rest of the time just and this days of the government was awful, but they do it anyways. I don't do that.
It's mostly because I have to drive home, so I obviously can't.
That's why you drink in the morning.
She
She's
will
got a
justify
point.
anything.
She's got it
for you.
figured out.
She's got a point. Oh,
So your life is no topsy. Should we make a start anyway?
Sure.
might as well.
Yeah, sure.
Hopefully some more people will join us. Well, they should always say that you should never start a panel off with an apology, but I'm going to do one because this is the first panel I've ever moderated. So if it goes pear-shaped, then it's my fault. But
Well,
hopefully,
fingers, not
so hopefully it'll be good. So welcome to the panel entitled "What is a Professional Paranormal Investigator?" And for me, this is both an academic and a personal interest. Of my PhD is exploring the perceived professional practices of modern paranormal groups. But it's also something that, as an individual, that I have a personal belief that investigations should be undertaken with a particular focus. So in this panel, I'd like our panelists to explore the questions around professionalism. So do paranormal investigators get paid to do what they do? What does professionalism mean outside of doing it as a full-time job? And our panelists hopefully will be discussing professionalism in the paranormal and what it means in the field. So before we start, perhaps we could start here and get our panelists to introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Megan. I have been investigating for over 20 years. I'm a member of the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society as well for the past few years, and happy to be here today.
My name is Dustin Crowley. I've been investigating for over 15 years. I'm a practicing demonologist and exorcist. I'm also the founder and president of Great State Paranormal, based out of Wilkes County in North Carolina.
Hi, my name is Jessica Adams. I've been exploring and documenting and investigating for the past maybe 8 years. So I guess I'm like the baby when it comes to everybody.
Nope.
No. But I stick mostly exclusive to the western part of the state, even though I do travel out quite frequently. But most of my main research and field investigations are in this part of the state.
My name is Jason Roach, and I have been investigating since 2019. But I've been randomly researching pretty much my whole entire life. Always been interested in the paranormal. I am the author of The House on Dead Man's Curve, and it is inspired by all the paranormal experiences I've had in my life and throughout the investigations that I've been on.
Okay, and I'm Dylan Jones. I'm a PhD researcher and parapsychologist at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, Scotland. And my PhD is looking at the media representation of paranormal phenomena and research and its influences on the professional practices of modern ghost hunting groups. So the first question, I think we'll start off with Jason. So if you look back down this way.
All right.
First question for the panelists then is, what does professionalism itself mean? And not necessarily in the sense of being a paranormal investigator. What does professionalism mean to you?
I think professionalism to me means more in the way you conduct yourself, how you present to others, as opposed to are you crazy, erratic, unorganized, not considerate of others around you kind of thing. Whereas a professional person would be more well-rounded, like that.
Very similar to his response. It's really how you show yourself to others and who you're surrounding yourself and who you choose to surround yourself with, and what kind of respect do you show not only the places that you're visiting, like because how you act there is going to determine if you come back or not, for sure, and how you act around others is going to not only help you but help them in the long run. Just don't be rude is just my motto. Don't be rude and just be helpful in any way you can.
I completely agree, but I will add an extra caveat onto what Jess and Jason have said. Professionalism is not just how you present in front of others, but also what you do behind closed doors, and the ethics and the background work that you have to put in, and it's the stuff that people don't see that help build up that professionalism. But then, of course, always being at the top of your game, having everything buttoned up, and presenting the best possible event, evidence, investigation, etc., to your clients or to your paid guests whenever you do various things within the field.
And the final layer on that one from my part before you, it's also adding that layer of the dedication that you have towards whatever you're doing as far as a passion and a way to connect to others and realize that you're not going to have the same view as me. Going back to that common courtesy and common respect, that we're all going to see things differently. However, you can't just try to choke somebody because they don't agree with you. And just really honing in and being the master of what you're doing so you can share that in a way with anybody, regardless of what their views are on it, in a way that everyone is respected and doesn't get offended.
Okay, that's great. I think it's important, that there is professionalism has a personal meaning to everybody, and I think if we ask everybody in the room, professionalism has a particular meaning for everybody. So with that in mind then, how do each of you put that into practice in your own approach to paranormal investigations? And we'll work back down the line.
Well, I don't talk crap about other people. And it really comes down to that a lot, especially in the paranormal world. I've never realized it. Well, exactly. I never realized over the past few years how much drama and cattiness. And the first thing that I think of when I see that, you have your little keyboard warriors. I'm like, gosh, they're children. They're giving us a bad name. They're not being professional in this genre, in this world where none of us really know what we're doing because we haven't crossed over. So, just having that, like, it's okay, calm down.
Oh my God. Like, I wouldn't have even thought about that, to be completely honest. But for me, the way that I focus on putting the professional touch within my organization is by getting my team trained so that everyone knows how to at least explain or use almost any piece of equipment or method that we typically use. It's doing the prep work with our guests for events, preparing them on what they're going to experience, what to expect. And then I think probably the most important is working with our location owners, making sure that they get paid either before or on the date of an event. Never being late with them, having excellent communication, not misrepresenting their location, like Zach Bagans did with Bobby Mackey's. So just always doing great, being authentic, and keeping everything on a level with location owners, guests, and my team.
Pretty much exactly. It's so hard not to do, but don't get dragged into drama. And people will try to drag you. People will try to get you involved in situations that don't even involve you just for the sake of getting your opinion or just for taking, like Misery Loves Company. So they will try to get you involved in something that's got nothing to do with you just for the sake of having you there. Just don't stay out of it. Just cut ties if you have to, but stay out of it. And also don't representate any location, and don't spill secrets about a place if the owner says not to do it. Do not, do not, do not. Unless that owner tells you themselves what's going on, it's none of your business. And if they tell you what's going on, do not share anything. Keep your mouth shut. That is really big with me.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure I really have anything to add to all of that after all you guys are done. My biggest thing is to be respectful. Treat your team with respect. Treat your location with respect. Treat the spirits with respect. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, it all boils down to respect and how you conduct yourself.
It's been some really, I think, some good words that have been mentioned by each of you this morning so far in terms of what professionalism means. Things like training, preparation, ethics, behaviour, particularly the term respect. And I think that's something that applies, that we should treat everybody with that kind of respect. One of the researchers that I've been looking at, Culkin, said that the word profession and similar terminology, the word professional, which gets bandied around a lot in paranormal. He wasn't applying it to the paranormal, but he said it's often used as ideological weapons in the struggle for social position. And a few of you have touched on the fact that the behaviour of a lot of the ghost hunting groups, the drama that seems to surround it, is not something new. In fact, Harry Price, who investigated Gawdy Rectory in the 1940s, he wrote in one of his books about, and you could literally take that paragraph, and if you didn't know who it was attributed to back then, you'd think that it was written about paranormal groups today. So in some ways it's comforting that things haven't changed, but we're dealing with something new. But on the other hand, it's disappointing that we haven't advanced. So are paranormal investigators then classifying ghost hunting as a profession to gain acceptance and social position? I'll work back down.
I think it depends on what type of ghost hunter you're discussing. Because I think there are multiple, but there are two main ones. There are the side that wants to be like the television shows. They want the recognition, they want attention, they want everything they could possibly get and do anything they can to get it, including lying, faking evidence, whatever. Then you have those that actually care. And they're serious about the research. They want to do their historical background and history on locations. They want to find the connections, but if they're not there, they're not going to make them up, you know? So I think it just depends on which side. Obviously, don't be a television show.
Yes. There's a lot of people who just rather gain the notoriety and the popularity from it than actually just enjoying the ride and the knowledge that you gain from all these experiences. And that feels so bad. I would rather be respectful and know what I'm doing and have all the correct information than to gain like a huge following that doesn't sit well with me.
So what comes to my mind is kind of a fun little story. I used to work for what was once the nation's largest ghost hunting events company. They recently closed because they were unethical. But after I left that company, the owner tried to discredit me. And he stated online that one doesn't just wake up one day and say, I'm a demonologist. You have to go through years of study and training, which I have. So I couldn't respond to that because it blocked me, but it's fine. He's
Don't get wrapped up in the drama
because he invested $900,000. So I win. But I think that is kind of the point. Some people just wake up one day and decide, I'm going to call myself a professional paranormal investigator to get that title, but they haven't done the work to earn it.
Mhm.
Whereas, at least all of us, we've done the work, we've put in the time and the dedication. And so to me, when I call my team professional, it's not so much us trying to gain a recognition or a status. It's more so just labeling the efforts that we've done behind the scenes so that people can know what to expect from us.
There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize. You have to budget everything, and a lot of it comes out of our own pockets. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't charge for any, like, I do free genealogy research for people. I travel for people. Yeah, I don't charge for any of this.
Genealogy.
Yeah.
For free?
Absolutely. So I don't, because I don't believe in giving you information that should already be yours. That's to me, that's extortion. I'm not gonna charge you for like your grandmother's information.
Mhm.
Just that, I can't, consciously, I can't do that. So a lot of this stuff comes out of my own pocket, which I love. Like, genealogy is my first love. That's why I got into it. Crosses over with the paranormal big time, but that's my first love, and I never charge for any of my research. But a lot of this stuff comes out of our own pockets, like the traveling, the budgeting, all of the hours of volunteer work that we do behind the scenes. And we don't post everything that we're doing. Like, one week I could be at another place, one week I could be another place, and I'm keeping quiet about it because just out of respect for whoever's there at the time. So a lot of our resources just come out of our own pockets. We're not making anything. I may see a check from YouTube every once in a while. YouTube doesn't pay crap. Does not pay crap. I mean, it's horrible, but everything just comes out of our own pockets. And there's a lot that just goes on budgeting on other people's schedules. I have to work around my work schedule, my personal life, my kids' schedules, everybody's schedules to do what I need to do. And that takes a lot of like bullet point planning.
Oh, sorry, I was still just thinking about that. It's sinking in. I really feel like if you took the definition of profession, of course, just anything can be twisted and molded into your personal opinion. So if any of us or anybody who's here want to say, you know, I am a professional investigator, I am a professional historian, I am, whether you get paid or not, I think that's a mindset. And if other people are coming to you because you hold, you know, validity and you are a source for them, and you have this knowledge, you have this time, you have this, sure, go ahead, call yourself a professional. I would love nothing more than to see kids in elementary school when they're asked on, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up day, someone to say, I want to be a historian. I want to, you know, I want to do research in cemeteries. I want to learn more about the afterlife and help people transition, like in the hot, you know, just all of those things that are so well connected to the paranormal. And if you want to call yourself, you know, and that's your profession, then have at it. You know, I'm all for supporting that.
Just to add on to that, my youngest actually did do that because she loves cemeteries.
I love that.
It fell to her. It skipped my other kids completely, but it fell to my youngest. She told the teacher she loves walking and exploring cemeteries. I got a call from the principal that day. I had to explain everything.
You know, but why would that, you know, why would somebody too, you know, just to plan that, be like, okay, you feel that's odd, but you're teaching them history, you're teaching them respect. Like, this is someone's
Oh, yeah.
final resting place. You do not walk in a certain area. You do not touch. If someone leaves something, you don't pick it up. You know, so it's a whole new level of peace and respect and, you know, preservation. And of course, you do have your groundskeepers, you know, they have to take care of things too. So that's a whole other, you know, job title. But I would hate for like a principal to be like, what are you doing to your kid?
Well,
Be like,
you
why are
have
you not doing
well,
this with your children?
to kind of feed into that a little bit, you have to understand the area where I'm from is really conservative. It's conservative. So you have to kind of, some of these people don't know how to navigate the kind of hobbies and interests that you have because they don't fit into their mold.
Because it's not you on being an elementary school teacher.
Right.
Right. I'm not what they, I'm not, how do I say this lightly? Yeah, I am actually. I wear many hats. That was one of them actually. But a lot of the people at the elementary school, well, she's not homeschooled, but a lot of the people there were really pretentious and very judging and very high class and very standardized.
Yeah, I call it the
Stepford Wise. It was a Stepford Wise, exactly. Stepford Wise Elementary School.
And question for that, for your youngest, is that the one that we talked about?
Yes.
So
That's
on
the
top
one.
of the other things, you're also having to teach her like social emotional intelligence at that age because she has some abilities.
Yes.
And so she has to not only navigate that, but are these emotions my emotions?
And she's getting better at that. She's really wise for her age.
Okay, great. So, I mean, again, picking up some things from there, there's other things we're going to come back to a little bit later on. But the next question, we'll go back down this way, is what work or training should be undertaken to contribute towards professionalism as a paranormal investigator?
I think as far as volunteering, in these places that you're going to, doing your research beforehand, whether you're working individually or as a team, just, building those relationships, which, some people just do automatically, and some people, it takes work for them. They need to learn how to work as a team. So that's certainly falls under training. If you use equipment, you need to learn how to use it. What does this do? What does this button do? I can't tell you how many times years ago, like, things would be going off and I'm like, ooh, I didn't even know it could do that. Because, you just have no idea what's what. So if you're using equipment, reading about it, what's its real life? And that's another panel for another day. But what is it made to do and why am I using it right now in the dark in this house?
Yep, and I think to kind of tie into that, one thing that I have my team trained on, we do a little bit of like, I don't want to quite call it customer service, but sort of customer servicey type things. But more so communication, because what I found with some people within the paranormal is they have a lot of the intelligence up here on what's going on, but they can't articulate that to a client or to a guest. And so part of the training is just being able to fully communicate, in some cases, very complex ideas or equipment to a way where someone who's a normie can comprehend it and understand it. Because otherwise, there's really no point of us going out and trying to help or do remediations if we're just talking over someone's head.
Networking and getting familiar with your equipment, but mostly networking. Getting to know the property owners, volunteering wherever you can in any circumstance. Even if it's just to go like clean up after an event, even if it's just to take out garbage, even if it's just to do something on the sidelines, always be there, always help out wherever you can, get to know everybody. Network your groups. I'm not in a group. I prefer just to do things solo, but I'm very familiar with different groups and I know what they stand for. And there's groups that I've stepped away from completely because I just don't like their aggravation. I don't like how aggressive they are. And I will steer clear away from any of that. But mostly networking and volunteering are my two biggest things when it comes to investigating and researching. Those are extremely important. Just getting to know everybody on a just even like you don't even have to know their last name. Like get to know their first name and get familiar with them.
Mine would be never stop learning, never stop training, because anybody, like we've said earlier, anyone can call themselves a professional. But if you don't have the knowledge to back it up, then you're not.
Mhm.
And you should always be continually growing in your field. It's just like a day job. You should always look to grow, move up, promote like yourself, not promote yourself, but you should always be looking to learn and question things, because not everything you hear is going to be the truth.
Mhm.
So,
The training is intrinsically tied to professionalism.
Mhm.
We all look at our day jobs or previous day jobs, and we know that when we start a job or a career, there's a set process of training. I remember back to my policing days, and I had a good few months in police training college, and then a whole tutor system, and it was a whole system that was built around trying to make you a better, more professional police officer. We've all had our respective jobs where that's happened. Who does your training as paranormal investigators? So my next question: who trains you?
well, I think if you had a team leader, it would be their responsibility to an extent as the team, but it's also your responsibility, um, because that team leader's not getting paid to train you. That team leader is there to make sure that their team is represented in the best light, but it's your responsibility to learn all that you can learn so that you're not presenting your team in the wrong light, or that you're not presenting yourself in the wrong light.
For me personally, I'm with the public 24/7. I work in the restaurant industry, so I have to have like a public face all of the time, which can be exhausting, by the way. But your social training when working with the public definitely plays into that, because you have to know how to handle certain people and certain attitudes and certain behaviors. And I'm trained through that through the restaurant industry. I know how to de-escalate a situation. I know how to help people. I know how to articulate the needs and wants of different groups. So that kind of comes in handy when you're dealing with groups in the paranormal field and even just genealogy groups. Like, you have to know how to navigate the needs and wants and just be completely resourceful.
So as the founder and president of a paranormal team, I kind of have to train myself. And so I have to lean on the backs of giants, and I read, listen to podcasts, almost anything I can get my hands on. And I take in a lot of stuff from a broad spectrum. And I kind of have a philosophy that I picked up from actually a local pastor here in Charlotte, which is eat the fish, leave the bones. Take what works for me and my team and the paranormal. And if something doesn't work within that classification, discard it.
Okay. Over the years, just visiting places, I consider just everyone up here, all of you guys, just people that I talk to that have had experiences, or hey, this is how I've done this, or docents at museums, or the books that we've purchased, or just all of those things. Like my training over the course of the years, I got into this when I was, oh gosh, before I was even 20. And I said I've been doing it for 20 years, so yeah, I'm in my mid 40s now. So all of that just collects and collects. Being part of a team, Tina McSwain, she's the founder of CAPS. Goodness knows she's been doing it for a bajillion years. So, she was the one who was like, hey, if you're ever considering getting into a group, this is how you do it. You do come to the events, you do the volunteer work, you do this, you volunteer time working on social media, you get connected, you do things like this, which is all something that I'm like, yeah, I'm stalking her for about 3 years until she finally was like, you know what, do you want to be part of our team? So those are the people that I look for if I have a question or want to learn something new, or just want to talk about things for growth and development.
There's a few things that we mentioned, I think, from everybody, that responsibility that Jason touched upon, that falls upon ourselves to do the right thing. Bringing skills from other industries, like the hospitality industry, like you said, Jess, but also getting information and where we access information, which we both covered from like podcasts and books. So that's for training yourself. But what about who trains the people training you? How do you think they should conduct themselves? How do you think they should develop?
That's right. Yeah. I think, things are passed down through generations. Things are always being tweaked. I think that people who are in this, who comes up with some of these methods? Like, let me cut ping pong balls in half and put them over my eyes. Just, right? You think about that and you're like, okay, well, no one trained you to do that. You are just creative enough, to come up with these methods, and try and experiment. And then before you know it, we're all trying it too. So we're kind of getting this informal training, because people are creative. They do experiment. They do try these new things. And then before we know it, we're all doing it too. Look at the Mel meters. That was created because someone lost his daughter. And now, it's pretty much a standard piece of equipment in all of our packs.
And kind of to piggyback on that, I think there's a lot that just passing down that knowledge from generation to generation, as far as like the people that train me. But then also, I look for someone who's taking that historical knowledge and trying to build on it, to expand it, or to modernize it. So, like, there is a friend of mine out of Pennsylvania, and he makes equipment. I'm actually testing a prototype of Gansfeld goggles. So instead of cutting ping pong balls in half, you can just put on these goggles. They're pretty good. They're a little bit broken. It's just a beta test for now, but eventually he's going to have something that can kind of take that, but replicate it and make it available in mass. So he saw an opportunity. He had all of the knowledge that he needed, and then he is working on a solution to it. So someone like my friend Bill is someone who I would look for as someone who's teaching and training, and he is then taking his lessons from the past, but working on bringing them to a more modern sense.
Yeah, and it also depends on, a lot of times we see different age gaps and different generational gaps. Like the previous generation is going to have things completely done different than what we're doing now. So you get people, for all intents and purposes, boomers. I hate that term, but it is what it is. And then I'm Gen X. So they've done things completely different than what I'm doing. So we just have to take that and learn from it and make it, I don't want to say better, but just learn from it and build on, because nothing's perfect. You just want to take and learn from it and build off on that.
So I think that you're not always going to have a leader that has things passed down to them. You may have a new leader that's starting out, maybe because they had an experience and they're decided to form this team. They've decided to continue the research based off the experience they've had. And at that point, linking it to professionalism, it's kind of like a marketing aspect. You have to stay on top of what the latest trend is in order to know where you need to go, what you need to learn, how you need to implicate it, and then pass that down to your team as well.
Excellent. Interesting, the ping pong balls, as Dusty mentioned, the Gansfeld method.
Yeah.
If any of you are interested, my colleague, Professor Carol Cooper at Northampton University, is doing studies on the Gansfeld at the moment. So there's been a lot that's been done. And for those of you who don't know the Gansfeld, has anybody not heard of the Gansfeld experiment? It's basically, so they would have a flotation tank just to sort of deprive themselves of any sort of external stimulus. So they lie in this water-filled tank, they're enclosed, it's dark, ping pong balls, they might have sort of white noise playing, and then somebody in a different location is going to try and send them some form of imagery and then or communicate that. And from what Carol and I have spoken about, they're getting some very interesting results. So there is clearly something going on, but we just don't know what yet. That's paraphrasing it. But yeah, the research and the published research is out there, but that's a whole different issue that we could get into, but I'm not going to get into at the moment, because accessing the academic stuff is not always possible for the general public, which is a shame. And if it is, it's not always put in a way that people can generally read it and understand what's going on. Countless academic papers I've picked up and thought, what the is this person talking about? It should be in a way that's accessible for everybody. So taking that sort of theme a little bit further than professionalism, let's talk about qualifications in the paranormal field. So there are at least 3 examples of investigators that I've come across, one in the UK, 2 in the US, who claim to have a PhD and put the term doctor before their name. And they've spent money at an online university in Florida and got that qualification. But they're on Facebook as being doctor, I'm not going to name names, and when I've asked to see their thesis or where they've been to university, they refuse to answer which university they've been to and say that they're not prepared to hand over their thesis, which should be kept, if it's in the UK, the British Library, or in the US, the Library of Congress. It should be accessible. So, question to the panel, should investigators be trained and should there be a qualification? So it's work that
I do not think there should be any qualifications. I think, I mean, there's just something special. There's so many, okay, my brain's shooting off for a second. There's so many different people who have so many different experiences and learn in different ways. So, I mean, we're all doing this because we love it, we're passionate about it. Maybe we've had experiences, but as far as, and handling ourselves in a certain manner where people want to join us and we are, experimenting and we're creating and, people are writing but to say that, somebody would need to have to go to school for that, to be able to do those things, or they should, I think it kind of, it makes it kind of stuffy. It takes that passion out. Sometimes when it's like, I want to do this and this and this, it just takes it takes that joy out of it, going to school or, having to have the training. I mean, there's plenty of people that I know that are out there just doing their thing and, making videos, documenting things, doing experiments, and doing all kinds of stuff. And maybe they didn't even graduate high school. Doesn't make their work any less, important or real than what someone would do if they had a degree in psychology and sociology or history, all of those things. You're talking about a medical degree. Yeah, you would need something like that. But, the paranormal is a pseudoscience. So, there's really no right or wrong answer. And that's the beauty of it. But morally, I feel like there is a right or wrong answer, the way you're conducting yourself and what you do with the work you've done.
So I would like to see there be some type of like a certification training type course, but only in the sense like there's so many different ways people investigate. You've got people who are way more into the scientific side of things. You've got people that are way more into the spiritual side of things. And I think it would be nice if we had something where you could go and get like training and the certification, and then you could say, I'm a blah, blah, blah certified investigator. Because to me, it's a lot like when you get your like higher forms of education. If you tell me you went to Duke versus Syracuse versus Caltech versus MIT, you've told me a lot about you without telling me anything. So I know that you at least had a set standard of curricula, that you understand certain concepts and philosophies, and that you can take those and action them within that college's core values. So I'm not saying that it's something that we should have to do, but I think it would be something that would be nice to be able to have within the community that could add that extra layer of almost like a stamp of approval, so to speak.
Qualifications, not so much. It would be nice to have that extra background, that extra work put in. And I've already paid off my student loans, so I won't anymore. No,
Lucky.
I pay Sally Mann. I'm good. But definitely there needs to be a lot more vetting. There's people who should not handle equipment. There's people who should not be in certain locations. There's people who just don't know what they're doing, and you're going to get hurt, and you're going to get others hurt as well. Because you're being aggressive, and you just don't know how to handle yourself in those situations. So definitely a lot more vetting and a lot of research.
So I'm a professional student, and I would love to be able to take courses and get a degree in any type of parapsychology aspect of the paranormal. But I think it boils down to as well, from a person who's been in leadership in a professional career, do you want to take the time to train someone and maybe not have the bandwidth to do it, not train them properly? Or do you want to bring someone in that is already trained? They know what they're doing. It's like hiring an employee from a team aspect. But then there are those of us who, before we joined a team, we did things on our own. So it's just kind of like it all boils down to training. Do you train yourself? Do you go to a school? And how would that school be structured? Because like Dustin said, everybody is different. Every team is different. So,
And I think this boils down to the fact that professionalism means so much to so many different things to so many different people. But it is a lot more complex than I think what a lot of other people realize. And everybody on this panel realizes the complexity of what it means to be professional. I mean, is the paranormal pseudoscience or studying it? I don't think it is, because I think there is a structure already in place in which that can be done. And parapsychology is an academic field, has a structure. Actually, the measures that parapsychologists, certainly in the UK universities, put in place supersede and exceed what the psychological standards are. So Cal and I have had some many interesting conversations about the things that he has to put in place because of the criticism from psychologists that actually go further than what they need.
right.
So the other thing in parapsychology is a multidisciplinary field. So it's actually a bad term. So I'm not a psychologist yet, I'm a parapsychologist. Para meaning outside of psychology. But you need sociologists, anthropologists, physicists, chemists, geologists. You need that whole breadth of people because we're all dealing with very different things. And something that Jess picked up on the vetting, because there are people who shouldn't be involved. So how do we do that? Is that something that we can do?
Yeah, it's like hiring an employee. There an interview process, a probation period, things like that are implemented in our everyday professional lives can still be implemented in the aspect of ghost hunting or running a paranormal team or anything like that.
Next question, one of the last ones then, is if we're dealing with people and their experiences, because at the end of the day, to have a paranormal investigation on something, somebody has to have had an experience at some point to to investigate. And with all the social issues that could be involved in a case, should we actually investigate it? Because if we take, I'll give you one example. There's a case in the UK where a ghost hunting team went in. There were noises coming from the attic. The team concluded that the source of the noises was demonic. It caused some extreme trauma for the householder, who then called in somebody from the Society for Psychical Research. First thing they did was get some electricians and plumbers in, found that the source of the noises was from the plumbing. So,
You're sure it wasn't Queen Camilla?
so ultimately we have to protect the client in the investigation. So should anybody be investigating at all? That would be my question.
I love that story. As a demonologist and an exorcist, and coming from a family of fourth-generation plumbers, like
Not related to Jason.
I knew the answer almost as soon as you told the story. That's so funny. Anyway, what was the question?
Should we be investigating
Yeah,
anyway?
with all the problems that could be going on in a haunting, should we be investigating anyway?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just never know. I mean, if there's a problem in somebody's house or, taking this example of that, I mean, who knows? Maybe it is something else. Maybe it wasn't the plumbing, maybe it was, but you know what? Every single time you can have some sort of, activity or some sort of claim that is obviously tormenting the people who live in the house. If it's a residential investigation, why wouldn't you go in there? And if you do find out it's something else, well, then you're ultimately helping them. If you can't find a reason or it is unexplained, then you keep going a little further and you get more people involved. Because I think too, at the end of the day, when it comes to either residential or people are calling because they're scared or they're affected in some sort of way, you're helping other people. It's the social work part of the job.
There's a broader aspect to that. If somebody reaches out for you to help them in any way you can. You don't know what's going on in that house or their personal life until you start to dig a little bit, and it could be anything. It could be there's a lot of mental trauma involved. It could be there's drug use or other kinds of use involved that could be stirring up whatever is going on. So if you have the ability to help in any aspect, like try to help them.
And you never know what you're gonna find. Like my team, I guess for anonymity's sake, at some point over the last 3 years, we've only been around for 3 years. That makes it as vague as possible. We were called in to help a client because they had demonic scratching noises coming from their attic. It was a raccoon. But while we were there, the spirit guides of one of my team members directed us to look into the daughter's room, and we found her suicide note. So while we had solved the paranormal issue almost as soon as we pulled in, because we went in and we also did our due diligence, we found that letter, and then we were able to inform the parents about that. 3 of the 4 of us are mandatory reporters, so we also had to report it to the Department of Social Services. And so we were able to get that child the help that she needed. And at least the last checkup that we did, the child is in therapy and she is doing a lot better. But if we had just walked in, raccoons, all right, let's leave, we'd have never found that. And I don't believe in coincidences. So I feel that the entire reason that our team was called in there, and the reason that I assembled a group that just happened to have a minister and 2 counselors for that case, was so that we could find that and get that person the help they needed.
Good story.
My turn? Your turn? Did you go?
I jumped in front of him by mistake. I didn't. Sorry, by the way.
Y'all are throwing off my feng shui here.
I thought that was very professional.
I'm still hungover.
She just sparked something.
So I think people in your scenario, Dylan, should not be investigating. I think they give those of us that care a very bad reputation. And I think more groups need to be like yours, where they do follow up and they do what needs to be done to help. Like Jess said, if they didn't know what these sounds were, they should have called someone in to look or done their own research. But I don't know of many teams out there that check up on someone 3 or 4 times. Normally it's, this is what you got. Bye. With no resolution of how to fix the problem, justify the problem, explain the problem, anything. And I think those people don't need to be out there.
Okay, some great answers there. So we've got 10 minutes left. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, great.
Oh, she's got a notebook.
Okay, so recently I picked up a book called Demonologist by
Mhm.
Warren at Barnes & Noble. And I was doing thoughts if you've heard of it or read it.
So my mother, she raised me that if you don't have something nice to say, don't say something at all. So I'm not going to talk about Ed. I love Lorraine. She is a fantastic person. As far as I know, she was on the up and up on almost every case that she handled. Ed was the actor that they got for Ed in the movies is really hot.
That's all I have to say. He is really hot.
That's
I haven't even watched any of the movies. I just picked up the book.
they're
recently.
not accurate at all.
They're embellished quite a bit.
Just a bit.
There is a panel on that later on to do with media portrayals. So are you on that one, Justin?
I
Yeah, I
am
think
not.
it's later on today. It's called, is that,
It's
Hold on.
the truth, isn't it?
I got this one.
Yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah, no, I'm on the panel for that one.
Yeah, it's based on a true story, really, at
Yeah.
4:30 today.
Yeah. You on that one?
I know I'm on it, that's why I said
All
thank
right.
you.
I'm on it as well. So, anybody else want to take on Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Oh, good, you are on it.
One word, problematic.
Yes.
Ooh, good word. Good word.
I could throw several, but none of them. are
Controversial.
Yeah, I don't rate them at all.
And I have to throw in something real fast because years and years and years ago in 1997, when I was a freshman in college, Ed and Lorraine came down to my school to do a talk.
That's what I read about in the first chapter.
Yeah, they went to the University of Tampa in 1997 and they did a speech. And I was a freshman there and they did a whole presentation and, talked about what they did. And then they took about 12 of us walking through Plant Hall, which is the old Henry Plant Museum hotel. I didn't sleep for about a week and a half after that. The impression that I got was she was just this sweet little old lady that I would envision baking gingerbread cookies in the house. But she didn't look fearful there was nothing there to, be afraid of. But it's just so funny how there was that, and that was, 20 something years ago, and how once the media got involved and all these stories and all these things started getting twisted and convoluted a little bit, and you just really don't know.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a good panel later on. Any other questions?
Charles Center, Savannah, it's more haunted.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a good debate. But that's my mom. That's always weird. When you were saying, taking your kids to graveyards and stuff, and you're like, yeah, I did take, she took
Yes.
photos of me, 5 little girls in white dresses to a graveyard.
So a funny story about that. My mom used to do that with me, and this was in the '80s, so we got like you can get away with anything and nobody cared. So she was taking me to, or she was going to visit a family cemetery that was completely abandoned, just trying to get all the names down before it got, completely gone forever. And the story goes, and I'm quoting her. I was 6 months old, so I don't remember, but I'm quoting her. She said, "I handed you off to a stranger who was there so I could write down names."
Yeah, she could.
And I'm like, "Thanks, Mom."
This one was a children's cemetery in Rock Hill that someone had mentioned.
There's in Fort Mill, and there's hidden pine trees, and they're trying to tear it. And they were like doing construction around it because they're putting like a whole subdivision in it.
Is that the one?
It's right across from.
Is that Fort Mill or Rock Hill?
Fort Mill.
Fort Mill.
Fort Mill
Okay.
160.
Okay, because there's one down in Rock Hill that I'm very fond of, and they were doing something similar. There was like a huge subdivision.
Oh, that's such a bad idea.
Yeah.
This one's right across from Narrowway Theater, and it's
Gotcha.
they've constructed all around it, but the cemetery is still intact. But it's like local families, and if you go through, like the first time I went there,
There's like teddy bears and like little cars on graves.
it was quite like you walked in and it wasn't like a scary feeling, but these guys went through and they were looking at it and they weren't like there was 5 little girls and none of them were scared, but it was kind of an interesting place to be. But
It's emotional when you see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
'Cause
if you look at the
Yeah.
dates, like they're all from the Sutton family, Springs family. So it's really interesting. But yeah, Savannah Charleston, which one? Because she lives in Savannah.
Yeah, I currently live in Savannah.
So I visited Charleston a few years ago. My daughter's a huge Hamilton fan, so we went down to the Lawrence plantation and to the Lawrence cemetery down there. So Charleston in that part of South Carolina is just mind blowing and beautiful. It's just everywhere you go, there's just something, and I want to go back so bad.
I feel that I've been to both places quite a few times. I feel like Savannah, not that they have more, but I feel like there's more accessible. Like
Mm.
walking the squares,
Yes.
getting lost because you can't figure out which square you're on,
Yeah.
which has happened many times. But I mean, Charleston is beautiful, has all the stories, has beautiful cemeteries, and I absolutely love going there. But I feel like when I go to Savannah, there's just more accessibility. Like you can go to the squares, you can go to more places, you can go down to the river walk. You can go into some of these houses a little bit easier.
Some of them are
Yeah.
restaurants and
Yeah,
as well.
it's
The
cheaper
Pirate
to go.
House
I mean,
is a good
sometimes
one.
you go in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that house is $25 to get into. So is that one, so is that one, so is that one. But if I go to Savannah, I can just walk to this square. I can go to this.
I literally
church and
live
go.
on the original cemetery.
That's what you were saying last night. I'm like, ooh, goosebumps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
occasionally we've had some weird things go on in there, and I'm just like, okay, go back to my regular schedule, because you have to, because I have to make my peace where I live,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it depends on my energy too, that sets it off, and so that can go into a wide range. Because I feel like when it comes to the paranormal, yes, I love looking at it as a scientific aspect, but then the spirituality, because there's so much of a broad range. When you try to say, well, what is paranormal activity? You can have residual, doesn't mean the soul remains or not, but like a child running up and down the hallway, yeah, it might not necessarily be a kid, but something could be embedded in time, it could be trapped, and you actually get to experience that moment. And there's so much that we just don't even understand, But when it comes to Savannah, I've been clawed up, I've been scratched. I grew up on Tybee Island. Tybee is absolutely haunted. People don't even realize that. It used to be the quarantine area for the yellow fever epidemic, and the Pucci language, Tybee means salt island. And there's a lot of that.
I would say Savannah, but I'm biased. So,
Hey.
so if you want to find out more, come and see Bridget and I on the Witching Hour stand. And you can book a tour. But from leading that nice segue, I think it's a good opportunity to conclude the panel. And before I pass on my thanks at the end, I invite everybody on the panel to say, where can we find you this weekend and where can we find out more about you? So, Jason, do you like to start down that end?
Sure. Let me get my notepad out because there are too many places to remember.
Here in this room all day.
Actually, yes, here all day, and author signing table in the vendor room from 12 to 2.
I will be here as well. I have to come back at 10:30 and for Women of the Paranormal, and then I have to be back here at 3 for I'm only here for the booze. I'll be here for that one.
Yay!
And I'll probably be here most throughout the day, here in general. And you can find me, like all my socials are the same. That Modern Mommy, it's the same across all social media. And I do free research, free genealogy research. So just reach out if you're into any of that. I will respond. I'm really good at, like, my phone is, like, I'm really good at responding. I'm a fast texter.
So I left my phone at my booth, so I can't tell you times. But I have the paranormal from the pagan perspective, inclusive ghost hunting. I know that's at 6 o'clock. I'm actually very excited about that one. It's about creating inclusive spaces for spirits that were marginalized in life. Then I'm leading the 10:30 panel tonight on walking through darkness, and that's how to interact with darker spirits and investigations. I forgot one of them. And then I know there's one more today, but tomorrow I have, I'm not in that one, but I'm going to be at that one.
You're in the inclusive one
Yeah.
with me, right? Yeah.
And I've got the spiritual protection panel tomorrow. I've got a booth, and I have some handmade candles.
They smell great, by the way.
We got some tarot cards and crystals and fun stuff. You can follow me at Great State Paranormal on Facebook, Instagram. We have a TikTok that we don't use, but ignore that part. And we do offer ghost hunts across the state. We have them coming up. We actually have one tonight that I won't be at because I'm here. We've got one in Hickory next week. We've got one
Where are you going in Hickory?
Harbor House.
Oh, cool.
Yay.
There's one in 2 weeks that I don't remember where, but that's all on our website. So if you want to join us, we've got a lot of them in Western North Carolina. We're doing the USS North Carolina battleship in September. So yeah, we'd love
Don't
to
you
have
the
you.
museum come out in July? Or is it the courthouse?
Courthouse in July.
Gotcha.
All right, let's see. Of course, I just closed it. So later on at 10:30, I will be back in here as well for Women of the Paranormal. And then at 4:30, based on a true story. 6 o'clock, inclusive ghost hunting. And at 9 o'clock tonight, one of my all-time favorite things to talk about ever is the Haunted Queen. Talking about Charlotte hauntings. And then tomorrow morning, read the manual, what is Aaliyah's ghost tech and does it actually work? I'll be hanging out at the CAPS table down the hallway. And also too, if you are interested, excuse me, we actually CAPS hosts paranormal investigation at Historic Rosedale, which is right here in Charlotte.
I've been trying
Yep.
to, I want to do that with you so bad.
We're doing it on the 10th.
And you,
So,
you invited me twice and I just cannot.
So we do.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it's coming up on the 10th. We do the grounds, the kitchen downstairs, and a couple other locations is one segment, and that is all outside. The kitchen's underneath, so you will be going inside. And only 3 times a year we do it the stroke of midnight. So we take a smaller group and we go inside the house and have full access to it. So.
You know, and I'm going to be back in here at 1:30 for I'm Not Afraid of Ouija Boards. 3 o'clock, I'm only here for the booze. 4:30 for Based on a True Story, really. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be here for the equipment one. Read the manual. Alternatively, when I'm not in here, you can find me down at the witching hour table. So find out more about the ghost tour in Savannah and all the different things that are offered there. And also, if you wish to pick up a copy of Ghostology by my friend and colleague Steve Parsons, who's doing his PhD looking at infrasound in haunted locations. This goes through the history of ghost hunting and also all the equipment. He actually takes all the equipment apart, like K2 meters and all the other things, to find out how they all actually work, or in his opinion, don't work, and the reasons behind it, and for explaining what EMF actually does and all the effects of things like infrasound and all that. So it's a brilliant book. He did write it himself, not like Zach Bagans.
You're like,
But I would like to extend thanks to this brilliant panel for their time this morning, for the first panel on a Saturday morning after probably little sleep the night before. Thank you very much. It was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming.
That's my concept. Like you can tell I'm under caffeinated when I don't remember. Like I went to check my pockets and I'm like, oh no.
you're like, where is it?
I have two kids. I had one.
That's
Because typically when I wear this, I also have my wool frock.
You're like,
So
oh, Steph, first thing in the
Thank
morning.
you. And I also just
You
dress
have
like
that
this
under the
sometimes.
table?
I know, but I
Because,
like it's you.
What did that little bag do?
like,
I guess this, I'll just
if you
put
have
this
it,
away.
wear it.
Exactly. Like I love when people are like their true authentic self. That's like the best thing.
Plus,
Do it.
like,
Oh, sorry, guys.
I mean, if you see me in like jeans and a t-shirt, and that's how you'll understand
I'm gonna
magician
be like-
and vampire.
If I see you in the jeans and a t-shirt,
That's what you can do. Although I consider doing those at our house with my team culture Victoria.
right.